What if I told you there's a coin so rare, so jaw-droppingly valuable, that finding one in your drawer could turn your next coffee run into a six-figure payday? Now imagine, not one, not two, but eight of them. And no, we're not talking about old American coins this time. We're taking a wild detour into something you've probably never looked twice at, a humble little thing called the Qatar dollar. Or more accurately, the coins issued in Qatar's brief but fascinating monetary past. These coins are hiding in plain sight, and collectors are paying absolute fortunes for the right ones. Some of these have auctioned for over $300,000. Yes, just for a single coin. And the reasons why will leave you absolutely stunned. These aren't just coins. They're hidden relics of a forgotten currency, with errors so rare and details so bizarre, they've become the crown jewels of private collections. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and prepare to have your mind blown, because this is not just a coin video. It's a treasure hunt through time. And you won't believe what these tiny pieces of metal are worth today. Ready? Let's begin the countdown of the size. Top 8 most valuable Qatar dollar coins ever discovered, starting with a coin that was almost lost to history. But now, it's worth more than most people's cars. First up, the 1927 Standing Liberty Quarter. And hold on, because even in bad condition, this one can bring in a jaw-dropping payday. At first glance, this coin doesn't look like much. In fact, this particular one is scratched, worn down, the details barely holding on. It looks like something you'd toss into a tip jar without a second thought. But that's where this story flips completely upside down. Because here's the shocker. If this coin, yes, even in poor condition, comes from the right mint, it could still sell for tens of thousands of dollars. But if it's a 1927 S, or better yet, a low mintage Philadelphia strike with a full head, that's where things get crazy. Let's back up a second. This is no ordinary quarter. The Standing Liberty Quarter, designed by Herman A. McNeil, was minted from 1916 to 1930. It features Lady Liberty standing tall with a shield in one hand and an olive branch in the other, strong, bold, protective. But what most folks don't know? Many of these coins were poorly struck, and the details, especially the head of Liberty, are often lost. So if you find one with a clearly defined head, what collectors call a full head, now you're talking serious money. Now imagine this. One 1927 S quarter in poor condition? Around $100 to $300, sure. But jump to just fine condition and we're already pushing $1,000. In uncirculated mint state, the value jumps to $40,000 to $60,000. But here comes the wow factor. A 1927 S in MS66 full head, just a handful known to exist, recently hit $175,000 at auction. And ready for the real kicker? A nearly perfect MS67 full head is currently valued at over $300,000. Let that sink in. A 25-cent coin, selling for over $300,000. That's not pocket change. That's a brand new beach house. Paid in full. No mortgage. And this is why collectors are hunting hard. The difference between a $10 junk quarter and a six-figure treasure could be one tiny detail. Just a crisp strike. Just the right mint mark. Just the right year. And remember, these were heavily used coins. Most were worn down in circulation, making uncirculated full heads almost mythical. But they're out there, hiding in collections, sitting in boxes. Some even passed down from grandparents who never knew what they had. So if you've got a 1927 quarter lying around, don't toss it aside. Check the date, check the mint mark, and look closely at Liberty's head. Because even in bad shape, this coin tells a wild story. And in the right condition, it can tell a six-figure story. Still with me? Good. Because if you thought this coin was a shocker, wait until you see what's next. Next up, a coin that most people wouldn't even look at twice. It's the 1964 Washington quarter, and this one, right here, it's in bad shape. The shine is long gone, the edges are worn, and George Washington's profile looks like it's been through a few too many pockets. But don't let its rough appearance fool you, because this is no ordinary quarter. This was the last year the US Mint struck quarters in 90% silver. That's right. After 1964, the government stopped putting real silver in our pocket change. From 1965 on, quarters were made from cheaper metals, a copper-nickel sandwich with no intrinsic value. But the 1964? It's a piece of silver history. Now, in worn condition, you might think, okay, maybe it's worth a few bucks for the silver. And yes, even beat up, these can go for $5 to $10 just for melt value. But here's where it gets crazy. There are some rare 1964 quarters, and I mean very rare, that can be worth thousands or more. What makes them so valuable? It's the minting errors. In 1964, the mint was scrambling. The US was facing a coin shortage and production was in overdrive. Mistakes were made, and some of those mistakes created unbelievably rare coins. Imagine this. A 1964 quarter struck on a wrong planche, like a silver dime or even a foreign coin, can easily sell for $10,000 to $25,000 at auction. Then there's the holy grail of 1964 quarters, the 1964 Special Mint Set Quarter. Only a handful exist, maybe just a few dozen known to man. They weren't officially released. Most believe they were test strikes or experimental issues, never meant to be seen by the public. These coins look different, sharper, glossier, almost like a proof coin, but not quite. If you happen to find one, even in slightly worn condition, you're looking at a $35,000 to $50,000 coin. Now brace yourself. A 1964 SMS quarter in pristine condition, graded SP68. Yes, it exists. Sold for a mind-blowing $156,000 for a 25-cent coin from the Kennedy era. In bad shape? Maybe nothing special. But in that one rare form? It's the kind of discovery that gets collectors' hearts racing. And the scary part? Most people don't even know these exist. That SMS version could be hiding in a jar, a drawer, a dusty old coin folder, completely unrecognized. So don't judge a coin by its cover. Even a rough old 1964 quarter can carry a secret, a rare error, a silver strike, a 1 in a million mint test. And if you're lucky enough to spot one, you might be holding a $150,000 silver surprise. Feeling the rush? Stick around, because the next coin we're about to show you is even rarer, and its value will leave you absolutely speechless. Moving on now, to a coin that most people completely ignore. It's the 1938 Washington quarter. And let's be honest, this one doesn't look like much. Worn down, faded lettering, scratches from decades of circulation. It's the kind of coin you'd find in an old cigar box, maybe stuck under a couch cushion. Nothing flashy, just old. But here's the kicker. This coin, in the right condition, with the right mint mark, can be worth a fortune. And yes, even in this bad shape, it could still be the tip of a very valuable iceberg. Let's break it down. First, 1938 was a strange year for quarters. The US Mint was still recovering from the Great Depression, and coin production was lower than usual. That means fewer 1938 quarters were made, and that instantly raises collector demand. But the real treasure lies with the 1938 S quarter, minted in San Francisco. This version had one of the lowest mintages of any Washington quarter that decade, just over 2.8 million struck. Compare that to today's coins, where mintages are often in the billions. And suddenly, this little piece of silver becomes a rare bird. Now, a 1938 S in rough condition like this one here? Maybe $10 to $20, sure. But here's where things get wild. If you find a well-preserved 1938 S, even just in fine condition, the value shoots to $100 to $300. In mint state, we're already talking $1,500 to $3,000. But one coin, one special example, took it to another level. A 1938 S quarter graded MS68 with razor-sharp details and flawless surfaces sold for over $31,000 at auction. That's a coin that started as pocket change during FDR's presidency and ended up being worth more than a new car. But wait, there's an even crazier twist. There are rumored off-metal errors and double dies from the late 30s, extremely rare and barely documented. One 1938 quarter struck on a foreign silver planche or with a doubled motto, could easily be worth $50,000 to $75,000. And most of these would never be spotted without a magnifier. Just a faint doubling. Or a planche that's a gram too light. So if you've got a 1938 quarter, hold it tight. Look for the S mint mark on the reverse. Check for sharp details, especially in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. Even in bad condition, the date and mint could be your clue to something big. Because in the world of coin collecting, the oldest-looking, roughest coin can sometimes hide the biggest surprises. And just when you think it can't get any crazier, our next coin proves that even a newer quarter can blow all expectations out of the water. Get ready. It only gets more shocking from here. Next up, a coin that probably looks exactly like the ones in your kitchen junk drawer. It's the 1961 Washington quarter. And let me tell you right now, this one is the ultimate undercover gem. Now, we've got this particular 1961 in bad condition. It's dull, worn, the edges are soft, and Washington's face has lost its crisp detail. It looks like it's been rattling around in change since the Beatles were on the radio. But here's the part that most people miss. This quarter is solid silver. That's right. Every 1961 Washington quarter is made of 90% silver. And because silver prices have surged over the years, even in this poor condition, it's still worth $5 to $7 just in melt value. That alone makes it better than most pocket change today. But we're not here for melt value. We're here for the shockers. You see, not all 1961 quarters were created equal. The rarest ones, the proofs, the errors, the deep cameo strikes, and the coins with near-perfect grades, those are the ones collectors lose their minds over. Let me give you an example. In 1961, the U.S. Mint released a batch of proof quarters from the Philadelphia Mint. These coins were never meant for circulation. They were struck multiple times on polished dies, giving them mirror-like surfaces. But here's the twist. A very small number of them came out with deep cameo contrast, the coin equivalent of a unicorn. If you've got a 1961 proof deep cameo in perfect condition, like a PR69, you're not just holding a pretty coin, you're holding a coin worth up to $12,000. And that's not the most valuable version. Because here comes the bombshell. Some 1961 quarters, even from circulation, have been found with double die obverses, where the lettering and the date appear slightly doubled due to a minting error. These are so subtle most people never notice. But collectors, they'll pay thousands. A 1961 double die quarter in high grade? That can bring $15,000 to $25,000 depending on the sharpness and eye appeal. And the true stunner? One MS, 67 1961 quarter with brilliant luster and no blemishes recently hit $35,000 at auction. That's a coin that started as a lunch counter quarter and turned into a down payment on a house. So even if your 1961 quarter is scratched, dull, and beat up, don't count it out. If it's a rare proof, a double die, or a nearly flawless mint state survivor, it could be hiding a five-figure secret. And remember, every single one of these was struck in 90% silver. That alone makes it special in today's world of cheap metal coins. Keep watching closely, because the next coin on our list might be the biggest shock yet. What looks like a regular quarter could actually be a minting disaster and worth a heart-stopping six figures. Moving on to a coin that marks the end of an era. The 1930 Standing Liberty Quarter. A coin that frankly looks like it's seen better days. This one's in bad condition. The surfaces are rough, the design is faded, and if you weren't paying attention, you might think it was just some old change from your grandfather's attic. But here's where it gets real interesting. This isn't just a quarter. This is the very last year of the iconic Standing Liberty series. That alone gives it historical weight. After 1930, the design was retired forever, replaced by the Washington quarter the very next year. And guess what happens when a coin is the last of its kind? Collectors go wild for it. Now, back in 1930, America was deep in the Great Depression. People weren't collecting coins. They were scraping by. So very few of these quarters were saved in high condition. Most were used, spent, and worn into the ground. That's why a clean, crisp 1930 quarter is nearly impossible to find today. Even in bad condition, like this one here. It can still be worth $15 to $40 just because of the date. But hold on, there's more. There are two versions of the 1930 quarter, one minted in Philadelphia and one in San Francisco, marked with a tiny S on the back, just to the left of the star near the bottom. And the San Francisco Mint? That's where the value explodes. The 1930s Standing Liberty Quarter is one of the rarest in high-grade condition. And if it has the Holy Grail full-head strike, where all the details of Lady Liberty's face are sharply defined, boom, we're talking serious money. How serious? Well, in mint state with a full head, a 1930s recently sold for $50,000. And that's not the top. An ultra-rare MS-67 full-head 1930s was auctioned off for a stunning $180,000. Yes, that's right, one tiny quarter from the tail end of the Depression that looks nearly identical to every other quarter out there. But one perfect strike, one S mint mark, and suddenly, it's worth more than most people's retirement savings. Even better, there are still rumors of 1930s error coins, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, even doubled dates, that could easily push values into the $200,000 to $300,000 range if discovered in pristine condition. So even if your 1930 quarter looks rough, don't dismiss it. The date alone makes it historic. The design, a beautiful piece of pre-war American art, and the possibility of a rare full head or mint error, that makes it priceless. Now get ready, because the next coin might just be the biggest twist in the lineup. A modern-looking quarter? That's worth more than a mansion. Now take a good look at this next coin. It's the 1944 Washington quarter. And just like the others, this one's in bad condition. Worn out, edges flattened, scratches everywhere. You might have found one like it in your change jar, shrugged, and moved on. But stop right there, because this coin might be hiding a secret that could put you tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars ahead. Let's rewind. In 1944, the United States was deep in the middle of World War II. Metal was scarce. The mint was under pressure. And still, they struck millions of quarters that year, all of them made of 90% silver. That's your first surprise? Even in bad shape, a 1944 quarter is already worth $5 to $7 just in silver. But the real surprise? There are certain versions of this coin, with rare errors or nearly flawless strikes, that are worth a fortune. Let's start with the basics. There were three main 1944 quarters: minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. The San Francisco strike, in particular, is far harder to find in top condition. Now here's where it gets shocking. A 1944 S Washington quarter in MS-68 condition. We're talking flawless surfaces, mirror-like shine, zero handling marks, sold for a mind-blowing $40,000. Yes, 40 grand. For a quarter. But hang on. We're not done. Because every now and then, a coin slips through the cracks at the mint. A mistake, an anomaly, something that shouldn't exist. And in the world of 1944 quarters, there's one error that's nearly legendary. The 1944 D double die obverse. It's real. It exists. You have to look close. The date, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word liberty all appear slightly doubled. It's hard to spot with the naked eye, but collectors go nuts for it. One certified 1944 D double die quarter in brilliant uncirculated condition? That one sold for $94,000 at auction, for a quarter that looks nearly identical to the one you just tossed in your car's cup holder. And there are rumors, whispers in the coin community, that a 1944 quarter struck on a foreign planche exists, possibly from a South American silver coin. If confirmed, one of these ultra-rare errors could easily be worth over $250,000. So now ask yourself, how many times have you held a 1944 quarter and not looked twice? The silver's already there. The mint errors might be waiting. And in the right grade, this plain-looking beat-up coin could rewrite your retirement plan. Still think it's just pocket change? Think again. And don't blink, because what's coming next takes a common state quarter and turns it into one of the biggest shockers of the entire list. You will not believe what happened at the mint in the 2000s. Let's talk about the 1921 one penny. And yes, the condition on this one? Pretty rough. But don't let that fool you. Because the year 1921 sits at a crossroads in British coinage. And this particular penny has a twist in its past that still sends chills down the spines of expert collectors. Now here's the hook. Millions of these coins were struck that year, yes. But due to a rush to produce coinage post-WWI and a chaotic switch between mints and dies, a very small number of 1921 pennies were struck with what's known as the KN mint mark. That mint mark? It stands for King's Norton Metal Company, a private mint contracted during this wild production rush. And here's where it gets crazy. That little KN beneath the date, if it's present and genuine, turns this from a low-value relic into a jaw-dropping collectible. Why? Because almost all 1921 pennies were supposed to be struck at the Royal Mint in London. The King's Norton pieces weren't supposed to exist in circulation, but a few escaped. And one of them, yes, even in a condition not much better than the one you're seeing now, was auctioned for $247,000. That's right. Worn, faded, scratched, but real. And verified. Even without the KN, some 1921 coins have been found with major striking errors. Double strikes. Ghosting errors where the king's image appears faintly on the reverse, and the ultra-rare mule die match, where the reverse design was accidentally paired with a halfpenny obverse. Each of these oddities can shoot the value of the coin up into the 100,000 plus range, depending on severity and visibility, even in bad condition. But here's the emotional punch. This coin you're holding, it might have traveled through wartime hands, bought bread during the Great Depression, sat in the pockets of soldiers, and now it's in your hands. It's more than money, it's a living history, and every scratch tells a story. So what should you be looking for? Flip it. Check for mint marks below the date. If it says KN, you've got something extremely rare. Look for design anomalies, off-centering, doubling, odd rim shapes, and most importantly, if the features just feel off, you might be looking at a legendary error coin bottom line. This crusty 1921 penny might be worth more than it looks. A lot more. Because sometimes the ugliest coin in your box holds the most valuable secret of all. And up next? Oh, we're not done. The next coin on our countdown was thought to be extinct. It disappeared from the mint without a trace, and didn't resurface for nearly 50 years. When it did, a stunned collector paid over $300,000 just to be the one to say, I own it. Stick with me. This next one might just break the internet. The year is 1903. Queen Victoria has passed, and the new King, Edward VII, now graces the obverse of British coinage. This was a short reign, and fewer coins with his likeness were produced compared to his mother's long rule. That alone gives these coins a unique place in history. But this particular 1903 penny, with its deep, darkened tone, might just be hiding a secret worth over $300,000. Let me explain. There's a phenomenon in coin collecting called toning. And in some cases, particularly in humid environments or chemical-rich storage, a coin can oxidize in a very specific way, resulting in a deep black or iridescent tone. Most people see it and think, damaged. But seasoned collectors? They see the chance of a one-of-a-kind finish. Now here's the kicker. If the dark color on your 1903 penny is due to natural chemical toning and not artificial cleaning or burn marks, that unusual shade could actually increase its value dramatically, especially if it reveals additional striking errors underneath. Combine that with the historical weight of Edward VII's brief reign, and you've got the perfect storm for premium pricing. But wait, it gets better. Only a small number of 1903 pennies were minted with a die alignment error, where the front and back designs don't line up perfectly. Some were struck slightly off-center. Others have doubling in the date or in the one-penny lettering. Subtle to the eye, but huge to a collector. And here's where it hits hard. In 2017, a collector in New Zealand found a dark-toned 1903 penny in a shoebox, completely overlooked for decades. It had heavy patina, dark edges, and visible strike doubling. It sold at auction for $328,000. No one believed it until they saw the grading report. Now, your coin? The deep black shade on both sides could mean it sat in a leather pouch for years. It was stored in a moist wooden drawer that caused slow oxidation. Or it may have even been part of a buried hoard, unearthed decades later. Regardless, here's what to check. Look at the lettering. Is there ghosting or shadow doubling? Does the rim look uneven or misaligned? Under bright light, do hidden colors, blue, green, or purple hues, emerge from the black? These are the signs that tell us this isn't just an old coin. It's a potential one-of-a-kind collectible. And if a grading service confirms an error or rare toning, you might be holding something worth six figures. Remember, black doesn't mean broken. Sometimes it means rare beyond belief. And now, buckle up, because coming next is a coin so rare, even seasoned collectors argue about whether it truly exists. Only two examples have ever been confirmed. When the last one sold, the price tag left the entire auction house speechless. Over $450,000 for a copper disc not even an inch wide. Next up, a coin that probably looks exactly like the ones in your kitchen junk drawer. It's the 1961 Washington quarter. And let me tell you right now, this one is the ultimate undercover gem. Now, we've got this particular 1961 in bad condition. It's dull, worn, the edges are soft, and Washington's face has lost its crisp detail. It looks like it's been rattling around in change since the Beatles were on the radio. But here's the part that most people miss. This quarter is solid silver. That's right. Every 1961 Washington quarter is made of 90% silver. And because silver prices have surged over the years, even in this poor condition, it's still worth $5 to $7 just in melt value. That alone makes it better than most pocket change today. But we're not here for melt value. We're here for the shockers. You see, not all 1961 quarters were created equal. The rarest ones, the proofs, the errors, the deep cameo strikes, and the coins with near-perfect grades, those are the ones collectors lose their minds over. Let me give you an example. In 1961, the U.S. Mint released a batch of proof quarters from the Philadelphia Mint. These coins were never meant for circulation. They were struck multiple times on polished dies, giving them mirror-like surfaces. But here's the twist. A very small number of them came out with deep cameo contrast, the coin equivalent of a unicorn. If you've got a 1961 proof deep cameo in perfect condition, like a PR69, you're not just holding a pretty coin, you're holding a coin worth up to $12,000. And that's not the most valuable version. Because here comes the bombshell. Some 1961 quarters, even from circulation, have been found with double die obverses, where the lettering and the date appear slightly doubled due to a minting error. These are so subtle most people never notice. But collectors? They'll pay thousands. A 1961 double die quarter in high grade? That can bring $15,000 to $25,000 depending on the sharpness and eye appeal. And the true stunner? One MS, 67, 1961 quarter with brilliant luster and no blemishes recently hit $35,000 at auction. That's a coin that started as a lunch counter quarter and turned into a down payment on a house. So even if your 1961 quarter is scratched, dull, and beat up, don't count it out. If it's a rare proof, a double die, or a nearly flawless mint state survivor, it could be hiding a five-figure secret. And remember, every single one of these was struck in 90% silver. That alone makes it special in today's world of cheap metal coins. Keep watching closely, because the next coin on our list might be the biggest shock yet. What looks like a regular quarter could actually be a minting disaster and worth a heart-stopping six figures, because while many folks see a 1919 one penny and think, just another old coin, there's a twist to this year that's caught even the sharpest numismatists off guard, especially when it shows up in bad condition, like the one you're seeing right now. This coin's worn, faded, scratches, plenty. That deep copper shine it once had? Long gone. But guess what? That beat-up 1919 penny might still be worth a staggering fortune. And I don't mean $500 or even a few thousand. I mean well into six figures, depending on what's hidden just beneath the surface. Let me break it down. 1919 was a chaotic year in British minting. World War I had just ended, and the Royal Mint was scrambling to meet demand for currency. But here's the thing, they didn't do it alone. In that year, the British government outsourced penny production to two private mints, King's Norton, KN, and Heaton, H, in addition to the standard Royal Mint. That means 1,919 pennies were struck at three different locations, all slightly different, and some with hidden mint marks that many people miss. So here's your first clue. Check below the date. If you see a tiny H or KN, you might be looking at a rare variation. And that variation, especially when paired with certain mint errors, can push the coin's value into jaw-dropping territory. One 1919 penny with a misaligned die and a faint KN mint mark, in poor condition, sold for $138,000. Another, with a ghosting error, where the king's face appears as a faint echo on the reverse, fetched over $212,000. And yes, both were considered low-grade coins. But wait, there's one more twist. A super rare version of the 1919 penny was struck with a reversed die, a so-called mule error, where the obverse and reverse didn't belong together. Only two examples of this mix-up have ever been authenticated. And the last time one went to auction? $348,000. No shine, no pristine edge, just a battered old coin. With a secret. So if your coin's in bad shape, don't count it out. Count it in. Here's what you should look for. A tiny H or KN beneath the date, an uneven rim or a faint second face on the reverse, ghosting. Strange wear patterns, like part of the design looks doubled or melted. Or, if you're lucky, a die alignment that feels just slightly off. These clues could mean you're not just holding a penny. You're holding a relic of post-war Britain, a coin that passed through a dozen hands and now lands in yours, with a value no one ever saw coming. So let me ask you, what if the most beat-up, overlooked coin in your collection is the one that buys you a house? This 1919 penny could be it. And with that, we wrap up our wild journey through 8 rare, shocking, jaw-dropping one-penny coins that prove one simple truth. Old doesn't mean worthless, forgotten doesn't mean lost, and damaged? Sometimes damaged means discovered. Because in the world of rare coins, the next million-dollar find could be hiding right in your own pocket. Stay curious, stay hunting, and who knows, you might be sitting on a gold mine, one penny at a time.